Ready to dive into a career that's all about precision and power. Today, we're tackling water jet cutter operator interview prep,
We're going deep,
equipping you with what you need to know to really impress
not just skimming the surface here.
those hiring managers.
We'll be dissecting common interview questions, revealing what interviewers are really looking for. Plus, we'll sprinkle in some career insights to give you an extra edge.
All right, so let's unpack this first things first.
Okay.
Paint a picture for me. What does a water jet cutter operator actually do?
Imagine a superpowered water gun, but instead of squirting your friends, it's slicing through steel granite. You name it. It's a blend of technical know-how and artistry demanding precision and an eye for detail.
That sounds fascinating.
It is.
Now, our guide has some interesting questions lined up.
Okay.
So let's start with this one. What inspired you to become a water jet cutter operator? Seems pretty straightforward on the surface.
Right.
But what's the real story they want to hear?
You're right. It is more than just saying, it seemed like a cool job. They want to see genuine passion. This is your chance to let your enthusiasm shine through. Talk about the technology, the problem solving, even a specific application that sparked your interest.
So weave in those career aspirations authentically.
Yeah,
Maybe touch on those career stages outlined in the guide.
exactly. Maybe you were drawn to those intricate designs mentioned for experienced operators. Or maybe the leadership potential in this senior operator role caught your eye. Mentioning these shows, you've really thought about your future in this field.
That's a fantastic point. Now, speaking of skills, the guide also asks, what are the essential skills for a water jet cutter operator? This is where we really get into the nitty-gritty.
Absolutely. But remember, don't get lost in the jargon. Focus on those core skills, attention to detail, being able to interpret technical drawings like a pro, and that unwavering commitment to safety. The guide emphasizes quality control and operations monitoring, and those skills are key in those areas.
Okay, so you're saying instead of just listing off skills, paint a picture of how they actually apply to the role.
Exactly. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer.
Oh, really?
Imagine having an AI analyze your response and suggest ways to strengthen it.
Wow.
Maybe by adding industry keywords or even giving more compelling examples.
So it's like having a personal interview coach in your back pocket.
Exactly. And the best part is it helps you tailor your responses to each job description, highlighting what matters most for that specific role.
That's incredible. Okay, let's move on to a question that just screams importance. What measures do you take to ensure safety while operating a water jet cutter? This one's got to be huge, right?
Absolutely. Safety is non-negotiable in this field.
Right.
But interviewers want more than just a memorized list of safety protocols. They want to see that safety is ingrained in your work ethic, a core value.
Okay, so how do we get that across?
Well, the guide has a section on work environment, right? And it highlights potential hazards like the high-pressure water jets, loud noises, things like that. Right. Just acknowledging those shows you're not just aware of the rules, but you understand the why behind them.
That's a great point. It's about really understanding the risks involved. So instead of saying, I always wear my safety goggles, it's more like, I prioritize eye protection because I understand how dangerous those high-pressure water jets can be.
Exactly. And don't forget to mention any experience you have with personal protective equipment machine guarding anything that shows you're all about that safe working environment.
This is really eye-opening. Now let's tackle a question that often trips people up. How do you troubleshoot issues with a water jet cutter? Now, this feels like one where experience really shines.
It does.
But what if you're just starting out?
Well, even without years of experience, you can still showcase your problem-solving skills. Remember, the guide emphasizes honesty.
Right.
If you're new to this, don't try to fake it. Instead, highlight your eagerness to learn, your familiarity with technical manuals, or your ability to learn new software quickly.
So it's more about how you frame your response?
Exactly. You could say something like, while I haven't encountered that specific issue yet, I'm a quick learner, and I would definitely consult the technical manuals and senior operators to figure out the best way to fix it.
That's a great approach. Now, I'm curious. The guide mentions that RoleCatcher can help tailor your answers for specific job roles. How does that actually work?
Think of it like a personal brand manager for your interview responses.
Okay.
Let's say you're going for an entry-level position. RoleCatcher's AI might suggest emphasizing your eagerness to learn and your transferable skills. But if you're aiming higher for a more senior role, it might recommend highlighting your leadership or advanced troubleshooting skills.
Wow, that's incredibly helpful. It's like having a secret weapon to help you put your best foot forward.
Exactly. It makes sure your skills and experience really shine through in a way that clicks with each specific employer.
All right. Ready to dive into some more questions?
Bring them on. I'm ready to help you ace this interview. All right, let's dive into a question that I think sometimes throws people off. Tell us about your experience with different types of materials in water jet cutting.
So it's about versatility. Like you can handle more than just one type of material.
Exactly. You don't want to come across as just a button pusher, right?
Right.
So think back to that material section in the guide. Remember it mentioned all sorts of things, metals, plastics, ceramics. They're even cutting glass with these things now. Have you worked with any of those, even on a smaller scale?
I see. So even if I haven't used industrial grade equipment, just showing, I get how different materials react to the water jet. That's valuable.
Absolutely. The interviewer wants to know you can adapt your approach because each material has its own quirks.
Right. It's like each material has its own personality.
Exactly. And that ties into those cutting parameters mentioned in the guide.
Cutting parameters. What are those?
Oh, those are key. They're basically the settings that control the water jet.
Yeah.
Like the water pressure, the cutting speed, the angle of the nozzle. Mastering those is how you get those really clean, precise cuts on all those different materials.
So even if I don't have hands-on experience with every single material mentioning that, I understand the importance of these cutting parameters. That shows I'm paying attention.
Exactly. It shows you're a step ahead. And speaking of steps ahead, let's tackle this question. How do you maintain a water jet cutter? Now, this one's all about responsibility and attention to detail.
It's like caring for a high-performance sports car. You got to keep it in tip-top shape.
Exactly. Think regular cleaning, lubrication, checking those high-pressure seals, making sure you're replacing worn parts. The guide really emphasized preventative maintenance. Have you done any of that type of work, even on simpler machines?
So again, it's that theme of connecting it back to your experience, even if it's not an exact match.
You got it. Did you ever meticulously clean your bike as a kid? Or maybe help your grandpa tinker in his workshop? Those might seem unrelated, but they demonstrate that mechanical aptitude, that commitment to keeping things running smoothly.
I'd love that. Okay, let's shift gears to a question that comes up in all sorts of interviews, not just for water jet cutter operators. Can you describe a time you had to work under pressure to meet a deadline? That's a classic.
It is a classic, and there's a reason for it. It's your chance to show off your resilience, how you stay calm under pressure, and of course, your problem-solving skills when things get tough.
All right, so how do we nail this one? Any tips?
Remember the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. It's a simple framework, but it works. Set the scene. Briefly describe what led to that high-pressure situation, then outline your specific task and the actions you took. And finally, this is the most important part, highlight that positive outcome, how your efforts saved the day.
Right. Using that STAR method makes your answer clear, concise, memorable.
Exactly. And here's another thing, that example you used doesn't have to be directly related to water jet cutting. Remember that junior operator in the example profile section? He talked about juggling multiple school projects with a part-time job, showing he could handle the heat.
Oh, that's a good example. So that time I pulled an all-nighter to finish a group project. That totally counts, right?
Totally. It's all about connecting the dots between your experience and the skills needed for the job. Now let's move on to a question that's becoming more and more important these days. What measures do you take to minimize waste during water jet cutting?
I was surprised to see this one in the guide. It's not something I would have immediately thought of.
It's all about sustainability, which is huge right now. Companies are looking to reduce their environmental impact and operate more efficiently across the board. And manufacturing is no exception.
That makes sense. But how does that apply to a water jet cutter operator?
Remember that nesting software mentioned in the guide? Well, that's a big part of it. That software helps maximize material usage and minimize scrap. So even if you haven't used it personally, just understanding its purpose shows you're aware of this really important aspect.
It's even just mentioning it shows I'm thinking ahead, thinking about the bigger picture.
Exactly. And you can take it a step further. Have you ever heard of lean principles?
I have, but a little refresher wouldn't hurt.
So lean principles are all about maximizing efficiency and minimizing waste in every single step of a process. By mentioning that even briefly, you show the interviewer you're not just focused on the technical stuff, but you're thinking about how to optimize the entire operation.
That's incredibly helpful. All right, what other questions does the guide throw at us?
Okay, let's see. This one's interesting. Can you describe a time you had to troubleshoot a complex technical issue with a water jet cutter?
Okay, that sounds like it requires some serious experience. What if I'm a newbie and haven't had a chance to deal with something that intense yet?
Don't sweat it if you haven't had a major machine meltdown yet. Even without that specific experience, you can totally rock this question.
Okay, good to know. So even if I haven't fixed a major breakdown, I can still show off my problem-solving skills.
Uh-huh.
How do I do that?
It's all about showing your thought process, how you approach a challenge. Remember that component section we talked about in the guide?
Yeah.
Use it. Imagine there's a problem in one of those components. Walk them through how you'd tackle it. Would you start with the technical manuals? Maybe try to systematically isolate the issue? What about tapping into your network of more experienced operators?
I like it. So it's about showing them I have a system, I'm resourceful, and I'm not afraid to ask for help if I need it.
Exactly. And this is where you can bring in any relevant experience, even if it's not specifically on a water jet cutter.
Oh,
Did you ever troubleshoot a printer jam? Or fix a leaky faucet?
we've all been there.
Right. Even those smaller wins show you can diagnose a problem and find a solution.
It's all about those small wins. Okay, last question from the guide. How do you ensure quality control during water jet cutting? This feels like a big one.
You're right. Quality control is everything in this field. Precision is key, and they want to see that you're all about that attention to detail, delivering top-notch work every time.
So how do we hit this one out of the park?
Let's go back to the guide. Remember those measuring tools and instruments. Familiarize yourself with them. Even if you haven't used every single one, just knowing what they are shows you understand the importance of accuracy.
This is not just saying I'm a detail-oriented person. It's about backing it up.
Exactly. And don't forget about those technical drawings. Being able to understand those and turn them into those super precise cuts, that's the mark of a true pro. Mention that whole process and you'll really impress them.
This has been amazing. I feel so much more prepared just from talking to you today.
That's what I like to hear. Remember, preparation is key. And that's where RoleCatcher can really give you a leg up. Because it's not just about knowing the answers, it's about presenting them in a way that really makes an impact.
It's like having a personal coach in your corner, helping you fine-tune everything.
Exactly. It analyzes how you're responding and helps you identify any areas where you could be even stronger.
So for anyone out there getting ready for their water jet cutter operator interview, you've got this. Take a deep breath, prepare yourself, and you'll be amazing.
I totally agree. This career is all about precision power and a real passion for creating incredible things. So let those qualities shine and you'll be well on your way to landing that dream job.
And there you have it, our deep dive into the world of water jet cutter operator interviews. We've broken down those common questions, dug into what interviewers are really looking for, and even explored how RoleCatcher can help you craft those perfect responses.
We hope this deep dive has you feeling informed and empowered, ready to take on that interview.
And remember, whether you're just starting out or looking for your next big challenge, RoleCatcher is an amazing resource. Head over to their website and check out their free career guides. It's like having a whole career library right at your fingertips. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.